Coding. Now, like what I'm saying, it's a class about types of layer. So let's just have it written there like types of layer. Try to be clear. Types is white there. Types of layer in Photoshop. I typed with my head. Taking note of that. Okay, let's reduce the size to 40. Types of layer in Photoshop. Okay, so what I say is the first one. The first one is the image layer. Image layer. And so this one, if you want to know how this one looks like, it's just an image. If you import any image, you take note of how it looks like. It always has the shape of the image, like that's what it does. So this is an image layer. You don't have anything to do with it. You don't have much. And take note of this side. You see that it's just one image itself. Although automatically when you bring in something, I set my system so that when you bring in something, it converts to smart object. You get, but that's not an issue. Now let me rasterize it so that you see the difference. That icon that was there before has just left because I rasterized it. So this is an image layer. It's not a smart object, meaning by the time I draw it, like increase it, reduce it, and increase it again, it will be wearing away by all these increments. I didn't press enter each time. If I reduce it like this, press enter, increase it, you see, that's because it's an image. It has dropped quality. It's an image layer. You get, so this kind of layer you should be very, very careful. That's why when I import something, automatically converts to smart object. Anything I'm doing with it, it's, if I reduce the size, increase the size, nothing will happen to it. So image layers will lose their quality every time they are reduced and increased, you know, anyhow they are tampered with. What's the next one now? The next one is both content layer, type layer. Type layer on its own is the type, just like this one I've typed now, but let me just get something different here. That type, yeah, okay, T. If you like, increase it, reduce it, nothing happens to it. Press enter. Is a vector on its own. Automatically it's a vector. You get, nothing happens to it. I've just reduced it much more smaller. While reducing it, you are taking note of the size here. It's the same thing as the reduction. Press enter. It does not wear away. And if you look at the layer here, it's showing T. All the things I've typed so far, they are all T because it's a type layer. Okay, so that's a layer. The next layer there is the fill layer. So in this fill layer now, the fill layer is different. Let me reduce this a bit. It stays on one side. The fill layer is always something you can start by creating a new layer. When you remember where we talked about it last time, a new layer, then add a fill to it, or create a portion where you want that fill to take place, or a container, anything at all. So meaning you can go to your selection, to your rectangle mark Q2, for instance, select it. If you hold down, you will see the circular one, you will see the rectangle. There are only two of them, although there are these other ones, but these are the two majorly used. And you can use M to select it and shift M to select the next one. Okay, so let's use a circle now, and you know, if you hold down shift, it can be a complete circle, or it can be oval in shape, anyhow you want it, but this is the circular one. And make sure you have selected the layer. Make sure you have selected the layer. Then you can come to your I think it's layer now, new fill layer, solid color. You understand? If you say solid color now, okay, sorry, that's not what I wanted to do. So let me come to see image. Sorry, fill. Yes, that's one I was looking for. You go to edit menu. You go to edit menu, fill. I always use shortcut. So let's take a color, because if we use white you will not be able to see white, so that color is okay. Select OK, and it applies a color to that boundary. If you don't put a boundary, let's do it without boundary now. If you don't put a boundary, when you go back to that edit menu and put fill and the color is selected, let's choose a different color now by selecting color again, and maybe just changing the color a bit, and click OK here, click OK here to apply the color on it. And remember, the layer is above all other layers, so it will apply the layer on the entire canvas. So but if you want to create a boundary for it, that's when you use a circle or a square, anything at all. So that's about it. So I can just make this layer invisible now by clicking on the eye there to be invisible. I change to my pick 2. So the next layer now is a vector layer. The vector layer is as simple as it is. It's also the same thing with the type layer, but just that the type layer is editable. So the vector layer is from this one here. It's different from this here. This is this Marquee selection tool that will just create a boundary. But why this one here, if you look, there's another one here, is the vector layer. If you click and hold, you will see different types of shapes. Okay, one thing you just need to take note of is when you want to create a vector layer, if you select any one, let's say the ellipse now. Okay, we've done ellipse before, so let's use rectangle. Take note of this place. These are the properties of the tools. Take note of this place. Sometimes it can be on parts, sometimes it can be on pixels. You need it to be on shape if you really need a vector. So make sure you change that to a shape. Okay, so if you use this, if you create it, if you drag to create it, it will create a vector. This vector now is that no matter how you increase it in size and all that, it's a vector. It's different from this one. Remember, this is a normal fill layer and it is not vector based, meaning if I reduce it, press enter and increase it, it's gone. It's gone. It was not converted to smart object, so it's gone. So but here in this one, if I reduce it, press enter, so that I've reduced it, and increase it, press enter, is not rasterized, still very okay. So this is a vector layer. So all these ones, they all have their use when you need them. Are you getting it now? So, and the last one is the smart object. This is the barber of the barbers. Let me duplicate it. So smart object layer, smart object layer. Okay, I reduce this because yes, I'll come to that. So for the smart object layer, first of all, we need to take note of what is really the smart object, what makes it smart object. If you look at all the layers, you see that for the text, they are all donated by T, T, T. When you came to the vector, which you created last year, it has this icon. This icon is what it has, different from this one. We have the black color there because the black color is showing because it is black here. So if we change it to green now, it will change to green, but this icon never changes. This is the icon that shows that is a vector layer. This is a text layer, T, but this one has nothing on it. This means that it is a raster based layer. There's no icon other than the color and the open spaces there. This one is showing that it is a raster. It's just that I would not make it visible. It's visible to cover everything, so we can quickly push it down and make it like the background. For instance, let me take it down. Okay, so that's the raster. So then the last one here too is also a raster base. But here is what makes the smart object very different. For instance, now remember I imported a picture and it was in smart object. Let me go and import a picture again from file, place, embedded. Pick any picture. I think I like this guy. Okay, so bring it here, and automatically this is the size of it. I don't want to reduce it, I don't want to alter anything. So once I just press enter key, it creates one icon on its own, and that icon shows that it's a smart object thumbnail. You can see the smart object thumbnail. It has just disappeared. Let me bring it back again. Smart object thumbnail. That's a thumbnail creates. Here, this thumbnail is a vector thumbnail, layer thumbnail, but it is a vector type. Okay, that's that one. Then all these ones are just normal layers. They are layer, but this one is showing that this is a vector with that icon. This one is showing that this is a smart object with that icon. So if you understand that that's the icon, every time you look at your work, like let me go to the other work here, you will notice that there are smart objects and there are vectors. This is a vector, this is a vector, this is not a vector. It's not come to the adjustment layer. This is a text, this is a text, this is a text. So you see that all those things you are seeing, like this is O text. If I make it invisible, you will notice it there, and that's the text there. This is a text, this is a text, this is a text, this is a text. Then let's look for smart objects here, and this is a smart object, my steps. So if I kind of remove it, you'll notice it's an effect I applied because I reduced the opacity to 30%. It's an effect I applied, and I use color bond or whatever. Then this is another smart object. If I remove it, it's a shadow. It's a shadow I applied. Okay, I use it to form a shadow. So those are smart objects. Okay, so let's go back to it. So here, this is a smart object. If I reduce it, so you see the difference, reduce it to be so small like that and increase it back and still press enter, it's still keeping the quality. So smart object wins it for us. So these are the different types of content layers. Okay, these are content layers. So the other one there is the adjustment layer, because I said we have content layers and adjustment layer. So we just finished discussing about the content layers. Now the other one we need to discuss is the adjustment layer. Let me reduce this to this point. Like, these are all the layers. Let me change this color so we know that there's a difference. So all these text layers and their types, I'll quickly use an alignment on all of them and reduce it. Left alignment, reduce it. You can still use a distribution on it. Press enter first and distribute it vertically. Okay. So now I said that's a content layer, so reduce this. Subheading. Okay. So the next one now is the adjustment layer. Then duplicate it. So for the adjustment layers, they are also many, but we'll look at the ones that are maybe widely used. Okay. The first one we're going to look at is going to be the curve. So this, to get the adjustment layer, you can also go to the image. You know, the last class I said something about you can use there are many ways, like up to 5 ways to get in one particular thing. You see from image, you see adjustments, you see all the adjustments. Are you getting it now? That we can use. There are many of them. Or if you come to this point, this place here, you see it here, all the adjustments. You see, it's the same thing with the one we have here. Or even if you go to your window and check the adjustments panel, it will come out. Look at it. You see all the adjustments. Each one has its own name. They just use icon. This is the curve we want to do now. Curves. Okay. But I don't always like it here, so I want to remove it. Close tab. Thank you for coming. Okay, so to create an adjustment layer, the fastest way for me is just simply go here rather than going to the file menu and select the adjustment layer. So on its own, what I said before, it creates a layer on your layer panel, but you don't see any content because it's not the content layer. It has created a layer here. So let's see what it can do to the background. For a curve actually is a very nice adjustment layer. It can help you to do contrast. Okay, contrast in the sense that, for instance, this background, if you want it to be, to contrast the background from the object itself, as I'm drawing it now, what do you call that thing there in graph, the line in graph or something like that, the coordinate or something like that. Yes, it has it, something like that. So as I draw it, you notice the color is dimming. That's what the curves is doing. But it can do beyond that. Like if I take it off, it's brightening the color. It's brightening the color. So, but that's in the RGB mode. If I go to the red mode, the red channel rather, in the RGB channel has the red, the green, and the blue. So it's doing the adjustment for all. If I go to the green channel, what it means for it is that only adjust the green, make the green darker. It will be the same thing because this color is green. Let me go and do something that will be very, very obvious. Let's open a new document. I don't want to affect the design. I'm still working on design. So let me look for something I can affect that has color. A new one, import. Let's use this color. This is colorful, so this should help us. I'm going to make it spread in the background, so I just increase it, and I'm going to put a curve adjustment layer. Nothing has happened. Nothing will actually happen except to start adjusting. So in the RGB channel, if I reduce it, are you noticing some contrast? It's adding some contrast. So when you notice that your text is not visible, maybe you put a text on this thing now and it's not visible, you can use the curves to adjust it. Let's introduce a text. T shortcut, please. I like shortcut. So let's type flowers. Give it a white color. But we're going to remove the curves. You see that it's too bright. I didn't delete the curve, I just made it invisible, the effect invisible. It's still there. Now look at it's bright here. When I introduce the curve by selecting and making it visible, you notice that it has added some contrast, making our white to be sharper than all those yellows that were clashing with it or infiltrating with the listen. So our flowers now is more visible. That's what the curve is doing. By just bringing it down, by taking it above it, it becomes even much more brighter. So you see now it's no longer contrasting. In this case, I think the text color may be a darker version when you are brightening up. Are you getting the idea now? So that's exactly what's going on. This on its own now can create a beautiful design. How many layers? 1, 2, 3. A text layer, an adjustment layer, and an image layer converted to a smart object. Did you get it now? It has created on its own a design. I've not even started applying effects like maybe shadow on the flower, which is very, very possible. Please let me mix that. Did you get it now? Okay, so that's curve layer. The other layer we can look at is a solid color layer. Let's go and write it. Okay. Solid color adjustment layer. I think if I tweak this to, I will stop for now. Solid color adjustment layer. Okay. Now on this solid color adjustment layer, on its own it just adds color. It just adds color. That's the only thing it does. Like if I select this layer and I want to put anytime you want to create a layer above another layer, you select the layer. I want this solid color to come above this background layer, so I just go there. It is the first thing, the solid color. Then it asks you to pick the color. Pick the color. You can pick any color of your choice and put it. This is also the same as creating a fill color layer, the one we did earlier in this place where we applied green. It's also the same thing. The only difference now is that it gives you the option to go and change the color later. The other one does not give you option to go and change color. How? When you come to the icon here, you notice that it has a different icon, different from, let me create a layer that has just ordinary fill. Edit, fill, choose color. Let me change, make sure the color is not the same. This is a dark version. Click OK. Now this is a fill layer, but this is a solid color layer. Let me name it fill layer. and here this is a solid color layer. In the solid color layer, we can easily go and change the color again. Are you getting it? But in the fill layer, if we have to do that, we have to go back to where we have the edit to go and change the color from that point. So you see that I think it's much more longer. So for me, I prefer this is more preferable. Just change the color quickly by double clicking, change the color and click OK. But you see this one is above it, so we'll just remove it or take it down. And so this one is visible. So that's a solid color adjustment layer. So I believe that has explained the difference between content layer and the adjustment layer. Okay, now somebody will ask, why is this solid color not a content layer? Because it's adding how do I put it now? It's adding a content into it. I think at this point I'll believe it to be a content layer because of this, though it's grouped under adjustment layer, but on its own it has added a content like color content into this thing. So maybe this one now we'll put it into that group of content layers, and gradient, pattern, all these ones, they all add content. The next ones now, all these ones down, the brightness, contrast, levels, curves, exposure, vibrance, hue, saturation, down to selective color, we might use many of them, many of them, if not 80% of them. They all add adjustments. They are different from these first three. Okay, for instance, the levels is the same thing as the curve. The levels too is also the same thing as the curve. If you notice, this is levels. If you drag this here, no, sorry, here, this one. If you drag this here, where is it under? I didn't see that. You can see the effect already. So you see what it's doing. It's the same thing with what the curves will do too, and it has channels: the red, the green, the blue. I didn't practice these channels on the previous one, so let me do it now. I wanted to show you the effect of these channels, so let me delete all these layers and have just the curve layers. Remember we did an adjustment on this curves RGB. So if we change the channel, or let's reset it. Let's reset it. How did they reset that time again? No. Reset. So this is the original. So now if I go to the red now, you notice that there are red colors in this thing. Somehow they are scattered. Let's increase the red. You notice what happens. So it's affecting only the reds and any color that has red in it. Remember in your primary school, okay, red is a primary color. Okay, what other color do you mix red to get another color? Red and yellow gives you orange, Abby. So if there's orange in this thing, the red in it will be sharpening out. Any secondary color that has red, even pink, it will be coming out because you applied a red curve adjustment layer. Are you getting it now? So let's go for the green too. This time around, let's take it down. Okay. You notice what's happening to the green now? Let's reset. Reset curves. It's reset now. It's completely reset. So let's go for red. Now in the red, let's take it down now. Like make all the reds darker. You notice what is happening? The yellows are still sharp. You notice that the yellows are still sharp, but the red have been darker. Are you getting it now? So let's go for the blues. Imagine making the blues sharper. You notice what the blues, you see the blues are coming out now. And this is different from the general one. Look at, in the general one, you see that the blue is showing there, the red is showing there, but this is the general adjustment, the RGB channel adjustment, which if you can still adjust it, and it will be adjusting all of them automatically. Are you getting it now? So this is the curve. The curve is the most favorite and widely used adjustment layer. Photographers, designers, and all that. There's one design you guys saw online. I used a curve to adjust it. Which design was that set? Which like is this one? Let me check first. I use a curve. The original thing there was not so fine, as in could not allow text to sit on it until a curve was applied. Like this one, I think this is the design I'm talking about. Okay, because there are other methods of applying curve. You can see curves there. You can see curve. I applied curve not as a layer but as a style. We'll come to that, but not for this class now. If I remove it, you will notice a difference. It's loading. It's loading. It's trying to load it. Okay. Oh, there's a little difference. Can you put it back? There's just a slight difference. Let me even click on it to see if there was even a major. Did you notice the difference?
Yes.
It is more. It's just that it takes the computer time to load it because it's a liquify. I applied the effect called liquify there, so that's what's taking time. So you see the adjustment I made on it. You see it? That's the adjustment I made on it, guys. I just contrasted it a bit so that this white text here, that is here, graphics, can show very well. So those are the things you can do to your designs. When you notice that, okay, there's a mixture of colors in your design, in your background, and you really want a white text to sit on it or a tiny color of text to sit on it, then you need to contrast. We'll come to that teaching of contrast. You need to contrast the background, make it look different, like make the color blend or complement with the text. And that's it for this class. I want to stop here for now. Right?